Our next guest worked with Lauren Cohn here for years, and also Lauren's mom thought he was the nicest reporter.
Best reporter
in New York. Her mom worked as the Macy's PR director. David Novarro from WABC TV giving us the update on Eric Garnder, the heavy set man who was choked and died, saying, "I cannot breathe," in New York, and the police officer was not indicted. Good morning, David.
Hey, John. Thank you for that introduction. Unfortunately, such a somber story to bring to you guys. Day of reflection here, although all is quiet in New York City right now.
By the way, before we get into Eric Garnder, I just have to ask you, why did Lauren's mom think you were so nice? Were you like an Eddie Haskell?
That's a good question.
Right.
I you know what? My mom raised me right. I try to be polite, and I think I tried to extend that politeness to Lauren's mom, who had a difficult job. You know, she was running public relations for Macy's, and everyone wants a piece of the poor woman and get her to do things, and I tried to be understanding, and it paid off. You see, always be good to people. You never know when it comes back to you.
See, I told you. That's David Novarro for you.
There you
He's
go.
the nap.
Great talking to you guys.
But back to New York. Tell us, Dave, set the stage there, because I knew there were a lot of protests and arrests overnight, and New York handled this a little differently than what we saw in Ferguson.
Yeah, clearly they were preparing for any action that might occur from protesters. They've been closely monitoring social media, which in this day and age is just an amazing tool for officers. They knew when there was calls to demonstrate at Rockefeller Center, they could increase their staffing there. They were pretty much alongside every protest that broke out in the city, and there was a significant amount of them sprinkled almost simultaneously on the West Side Highway, at Lincoln Tunnel. They closed the Lincoln Tunnel for a time. They closed the West Side Highway for a time. They tried to get to Rockefeller Center. However, it happened on a day to begin, which is what we refer to as a gridlock alert day, because of all of the holiday events, the lighting of the tree. It's difficult for anyone to move, much less protesters. But on top of that, there was a tremendous police presence, and it was, thank goodness, really handled very peacefully. I think at the end it was about 40 people or so overnight arrested, but no major incidents. There was a police cruiser. They're still trying to determine if it was related to the protests or something else, but there was one cruiser in Brooklyn that was set afire, but that was early in the morning, and all in all, everyone is happy with the way it turned out.
Well, now the federal government, we're told, is investigating this. On what grounds? On the grounds that it was a racial... I mean, on what grounds? That the victim was black and Obama is playing politics? I don't understand the grounds.
Yeah, I think that, clearly they want to show the community, if nothing else, that they're being responsive to some concerns. If nothing else, many wonder if this could have at least been considered a case of negligence, because you did have a prisoner in police custody who was calling for help and saying that he could not breathe, and it's caught on tape saying that, and then dies in police custody. And an argument is being made is that he was still resisting arrest, but from the video, you can see he was on the ground and handcuffed at the time, and the medical examiner determined that there had, that he, although he had asthma, the constant compression on his throat during that period led to his death. So something happened to this man. It wasn't an accident, and of course the argument and the grand jury found that that there was not cause for criminal action to be taken. I think that it's just that fine line that to assure and this is just speaking for what I'm hearing from the city officials and the two senators here in New York are called for the federal investigation to begin. I want to make sure that everything and all things that can be done to make sure that justice is served here are being taken care of.
What about the whole idea, though, that excessive of using a chokehold, which can be viewed as excessive force, is not part of police procedure in New York City? It's not in the manual.
It's not, and the big debate is whether this is technically a chokehold or not. In the end, however you want to call it, he was Garner was wrestled to the ground. You clearly see that. Beyond how he was brought down initially, he was held down on the ground, and it was a compression to the throat that he was struggling with that led to his death. So while the police department now is, announcing even more changes to police procedures, reflecting concerns that enough is being done, sensitivity is being done. In this case, I find it interesting that people want to focus on the term chokehold or the takedown element of it when it was really what happened moments after that led to his death. It was the continued pressure on his throat moments after he was telling them he couldn't breathe that led, at least by the medical examiner's determination, led to the death. So, I think it's a healthy debate over whether bringing a large man as he was, something like 6'4", over 300 pounds to the ground, whatever is necessary to do. You can make a good debate over what you should or should not do. He clearly was resisting arrest.
Right.
The next part of the debate is when you have a prisoner in custody, what is an expectation that the police should be handling someone who's in dire need of help.
And we've seen videos where people have been hit by batons and or tasers, and that's not pretty either, right?
Right. I mean, the takedown, it's an excellent debate, and I think that, it's not easy being a police officer clearly in any of these urban environments where crime is high. I think that it's a debate that will continue on and trying to be sensitive to anybody in that community. And if you feel like one side is going too far, I think it's healthy that it's just a personal opinion that people have this discussion. It does kick us to the next stage in terms of how we proceed once someone is a prisoner and in custody.
What do they say now is going to happen with the officer?
Well, the officer now will be going through the police department will do their own internal review and determine whether they're going to suspend him, reprimand him on some level, or even fire him, which is within their right. He's been very apologetic to the family, not that he saying that he did anything wrong, but he has come out and said that he was sorry that this man died as a result of being arrested. An apology that the widow of Mr. Garner was not accepting.
Hey, this is a completely unrelated thing, but it's getting close to lunch, and I've got to ask you. Okay? It's out there in New Jersey.
You're so focused, John.
I'm sorry, I'm a newspaper man. I'm always looking for a column. In New Jersey, there's a place called the Peasant Grill where Nancy Snyderman, broke her Ebola thing and went out for the seafood chowder. Have you ever had the seafood chowder there?
I have not.
Have you ever been there?
Not. I have not. Fortunately, like Chicago, which is a great place to live, work, and eat, there's so many places here in the city and in the surrounding burbs that I didn't get to that one yet, so I can't really comment on it.
I'm just wondering if the whole no soup for you, David Novarro, the whole thing.
Now, the original no soup for you is here, very close to my office, and is a delicious location. So I do recommend them.
If you see, well, then maybe take some to Nancy Snyderman and do an interview, see what it's like. Say, Nancy, how's it like groveling for your job?
Well, this really has taken a turn, John.
Thanks, Dave.
WABC's David Novarro. Always good to have you on the show, David.
Always a pleasure. Great talking to you, and give my best to everyone in Chicago. Miss everyone there.
Oh, boy. All right, well, coming up next, we're going to talk about Soup Snyderman, aren't we, John?
Some soup for you. Have some soup.